Hi, folks, I'm Joel. One of the questions I get asked a lot is how in Agility CMS, so I'm CTO at Agility, and in Agility CMS, how do you code with AI? How if I want my developers to be building with Agility CMS and they're exploring, AI agents and different AI tools, how can they take advantage of that with a headless CMS like Agility? And so I wanted to do a demo. I've been working on a demo site just for fun and just to kind of sort of see what's going on and see it, look at some best practices for doing that. So I wanted to actually do an example today of creating a component for a Next.js website. And I've got the code for the component, but it's not hooked up to Agility. It's just basically static content right now. So we're going to hook it up to Agility, and we're going to actually start from the code. Normally, when I create components, I'll start from, we'll look at the visual and decompose it and create it in Agility, and then kind of rebuild it in code. We're going to go backwards. We're going to let AI actually do this work for us. So let's get started. And I'm not going to make any cuts in this. We're just going to go from scratch so you can see exactly how the process is and see me kind of learning as we go through, because I'm sure I'll make mistakes. So let's dive in. All right, so I've already got a project that's kind of working here. And if you wanted to start from like the Agility CMS starter site, that's fine. This was a site that I've been working on for a little while. It's got a little bit more going on, and I've used AI to build most of this. I started with a bit of a template. So we're using the Radiant template from Tailwind Plus. So I highly recommend Tailwind Plus, by the way. It's an amazing package, got tons of stuff in there. I added so using AI, added things like dark mode. We got a bunch of components in here. It does have some agility stuff going on to tell you whether you're in preview mode and some other stuff. And we're going to do some personalization. So I'm going to be using this site for a while with AI coding. But I'm looking right now at the company page, the sort of about us page. It doesn't have a whole lot going on. It's got like a header, a hero, another header, and then just our team. I'd like to do something with like some stats. So I was looking around the Tailwind Plus. So Tailwind Plus is a set of components, and we've got some of these stats components. So I just want to pick one of these, and let's just find one we're going to start with like just a light version. Let's do this one here. I like this one. It's because it's got a graphic. It's got a whole bunch of different things. And if I was going to like, just in my mind, if I was going to create a component in Agility with this, I'd have like an image, subheading, heading, content, and then a bunch of these stats here. So let's actually just go ahead and copy the code. And what I'm going to do is start it with totally static. Okay, so in the Agility Components folder, I'm going to call this company stats.tsx. Okay, and then let's just do name it company stats, just to follow my naming convention. I'm not going to do it as a default export, and I actually like it to be const equals, and to make it async. And then, by the way, I forgot to mention, I am using GitHub Copilot, and I'm using Claude Sonnet 4 in agent mode in there. Okay, so that's how we're doing our stuff. And you can see we've actually got some of the static content we need up here in the stats. So that'll help our AI a little bit more. But let's just get it running static mode first to sort of see what that's like. So in Agility, I'm going to go into the models, going to create a component model. I'm going to call this company stats. And I'm not going to actually even do anything. I'm just, in terms of fields. I'm not going to put any fields on it or anything like that because I don't know what AI is going to tell me what to do yet. But I'm going to drop this on the company page here. I'm going to go add component, drop the company stats. Let's do it underneath the hero. I don't know. We might not even need the hero after this. So if I open this, I got no fields on there, but I do need to save it to kind of like put it on there. So now it doesn't work though, right? So I'm not going to actually see anything on here yet, because it'll tell me like it's not on there. So I'm going to let AI do a lot of this work. So let's start with a new chat, and I'm going to say turn the company stats component into an agility component. Assume that, you know what, let's not even give it any more stuff. Let's just that, because we want it to look at what's already going on. So go ahead, AI, do your thing. Go Claude Sonnet, you can do this. So it's going to look at, how we've already set up some of the stuff in this project. I will tell you that this is kind of nice because I can actually, while this is working, I can do stuff in the background, which is kind of fun. So one of the things I can look at is I've tried to create some Copilot instructions under the .github folder, and I've just talked a little bit about like what this project is and how some of the other components are built in here, but I really haven't done a whole lot in there. I haven't created a lot, and I'm gonna guess that I could probably use AI to generate a better version of this, and I might do another video on that soon. This might even turn into a video series. That would be pretty cool. But while this is going, I'm actually just going to take a look at the company stats thing to see what it's doing. You can see it got rid of the static values here, which is cool. It's already created me some interfaces, which I really love. I hate typing this stuff out. So I find that doing this methodology works great. And you can tell it's actually creating its own little interface for the stats that are going to be in here. And it's going to understand that I'm going to actually add linked content to my stats. So if you haven't worked with agility very much, this is going to be really cool because this is like kind of like reverse engineering everything, but it works really great. And every agility component, basically what happens is the agility SDK is going to pass me a bunch of stuff, and it's going to pass me a property called module that'll link to the component's content itself, which is really cool. And so it's doing all that for me, creating my interfaces, and then all I got to do is kind of plug that into agility, and then it's all going to be set up. And when this is done, it's going to tell me at the end what it did and what I need to do in agility to plug all this stuff in. So it's just finishing now. That's actually pretty fast. I'm pretty happy with that. You can see when I'm in agent mode, I don't know if you've used agent mode, I get to keep all these changes one by one, or I can do a sort of a full keep through here. And we could look at some of this changes that it's doing. So it's very similar to like your git diff stuff here. So everything in green is stuff that it created. So it created the interfaces for our data. It adjusted how this component is declared, and it's got basically the ability to go get the content from agility based on the module ID that was passed in. So that content ID is coming from that module. We're going to use the correct language code. So this is kind of like a future-proof way of doing this. And what it's done is it's converted all of this stuff into pulling from the content as opposed to hard-coded content that's in there. So I'm going to just, you know what, let's do it. I'm just going to click keep, and that'll all be there. So that's great. And now when I look at, what did it do? It used get content item and get content list. Cool. It set up the structure for all of this stuff. It added the field attributes. So it actually linked this. So it's going to work with Web Studio. So we can check that out. And it fetched the dynamic content for the stats, which is really cool. So to create this component in agility, we need to go ahead and create two different content types. One is the component type, which is the company stats, which I've started on, but I haven't had any fields. But we also need to create the stat content type. So we're going to go ahead and actually do that first. And I would say coming soon, like after having done a bunch of this, we're actually going to update agility so that this will work with an MCP server to automatically create these things in the background for you. It's not there yet. We started it, but then actually doing some coding and with some newer models, things kind of changed. So we're going to do this manually first and find that it's actually pretty fast to do it. So the manual part of writing all the code was the way worst part. So I'm going to call this a stat. All right, and then we're going to add two fields on it. We're just going to name and value. They're both text, okay? So name, and then here, and I can set the field name to be lowercase, although it will auto lowercase the field name in the API, but this just makes it nice. I'm going to make these both required. And we've got our value. So the label is proper case and the field name itself is going to be lowercase. That's cool. Sweet. I will make a little comment on this. This is used in the company stats component. There you go. We've got that. We'll save that. Save this. Should be all good. Hopefully I haven't made any mistakes there. And then back in the company stats now, we need to create section title, heading, description, and background image. Awesome. So section title, make that required. Actually, well, I can also look at here to see what it made required. So the only thing that's optional is the background image. So we've got section title. We've got our heading. We've got our description. Ooh, I'm actually going to use a multi-line for that. So multi-line text field. So that's for description. Wicked. Now we've got our background image. Sweet. Grab the image for that. All right. When you do live coding, you also get typos and all sorts of things, but that's okay. This is not a referendum on how good a typer I am. Okay, cool. All right. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to put this in a tab. I call this details. And I'm going to create another tab called stats. So hopefully that'll make a nicer editing experience. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to create linked content. I'm going to do nested linked content. So we want these stats to show. This is what the stats are going to look like. We can actually make some effects on those. Might do some like loading effects. That would be fun. But I want these to be stored on a linked content list that's nested. So like these stats will belong to this component. I'm not going to have a big, shared list of stats that we pull from, although we could do that with a different architecture. So I'm going to name this field stats. Goodness gracious. All right. Stats, there we go. And then we're going to do child or nested content. I've done this a million times, so I'm pretty fast at it, but I'll walk through the steps. So we don't have a shared list of stats. This list of stats is going to be created for this component. The content model we are going to use is called the stat content model. That's why we had to create that first. I'm going to do it as a list. I'm going to show an embedded view of this list. I'm going to pick the columns I want to show. So I need the name. Let's add the value to, modified date, modified by. Cool. That'll have everything we need. I want to sort it so you can move it up and down, but I want to use the item order of the list, which is item order is actually a hidden field. So this is what I recommend for most nested lists if you want to do sort of up-down sorting. Cool. So we're going to go click save on that, and then we should be good. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the page where we've got that on there. All right, let's fill out some of these things, and I'm going to be super lazy. I'm going to copy and paste text from Tailwind Plus because typing is not my strong suit. I could also use AI to create this content too, which I've done. Oh my goodness, and that is I'm not doing lorem ipsum. There's no way. We can make things happen with our team that you would be delighted to see. Cool. All right. And then a background image. Should we use that one? Let's grab one from Pexels. It's people working together at desks. Cool. That's good. Download that. And then, so I want to put that in let's do it in the BG, Hero BGs folder. Sure, that's fine. Pop that in there, upload it. Here we go. So we got our background image, which is there now. And it's a background image, so we don't need alt text. We need to drop our stats in though. So because this is a nested list, it doesn't create the list until we click save. So now it's going to create a list just for me. And then we're going to do, we're actually going to steal the values from there too, because, all right, so the value is 8,000 plus, creators on the platform. Save and new, I love the save and new. Flat platform fee, and it's 3%. Probably have to adjust these because they don't really make any sense for my demo site that I've been working on. Oops, that's not the value. This is the name. The value is uptime is going to be 99.99. 99.9%. 3 nines. And we've got 70 million paid out to creators. 70 million. Cool. All right, dollars. Need the dollar sign. All right, here we go. All right, so save and close on that. I'm actually going to publish as I go here too, so that I don't forget later. So publish this. And now we don't have to publish because we were looking at it in preview mode, but I'm going to publish it just so I don't forget for later. Okay, cool. And if I refresh this, let's see if AI got it on there. So it didn't actually register my component in the index.ts file. Let's see if it's smart enough to do that. So what every component needs to do, in order for Agility to find it, you have to put it in the index and put it in the all modules list. By the way, components used to be called modules, and we haven't quite navigated completely away from the word modules. So module equals component model in Agility. Cool. Let's see if it can figure out how to do that. Company stats. It's almost there. It probably would have been faster for me to just go and drop that in there myself, but it's okay. When AI does it, it feels like it's more fun. All right, almost there. It's working. So yeah, it imports company stats, adds it to this list with the company stats. Now, interestingly enough, the way this works is this is the reference name of the component in the component model in Agility. I like to keep it to be the same. That way, when I'm looking for things, it's a lot easier to find them. Cool. So we've got that there. And oh my goodness, did that just work the first time? Wowza. Well, it looks like it's not quite in the right container because this one you see has a nice margin and this one doesn't. Let's look at what it looked like over here. Yeah, I think it does need to be in like in a margin at least. So in a container. So let's just say back to here, put this component container with 20px 20 spacing on the top. I think I've been doing that all along. So let's see if it can do that for us real quick. So instead of this div, we want an actual like container component. Hopefully it'll be smart enough to do that. So it's going to go look at an existing component and see how we did it. This is wild. It works so well. It makes me excited to be a developer again. Okay, I never stopped being a developer, and I've never really stopped being excited about it. But this is a new kind of excitement about how, coding, and instead of just me being a faster typer, and you can see that's not really happened over 25 years plus of coding. I still suck at typing. But now I've got this assistant that's really like in there doing it for me and going through. And I just can work now more at reviewing code, making sure that it's solid. I spend more time testing. I could be writing tests for all of this stuff. Let's see how this works now. So it's inside our container. That's sweet. Great. Looks like we're getting there. Let's try dark mode. Oops, doesn't work in dark mode. Okay, we're gonna keep this. Make it work in dark mode. That should be easy. I also don't love this indigo on there. I'm going to do something and try to code at the same time that it is coding. Let's just make this gray. What I've done is, since this is a demo site, it really doesn't have a whole lot of colors in it. I think I left a few colors here and there, but it's kind of like Builder Beige, where you just let people kind of do their own thing when they're seeing it. This is kind of like a reference site, and we may make it the demo site for trial accounts so people can get a test of it, but I haven't really decided how we're going to use this yet. So this is cool, and it's going to go through and see how we did dark mode in other places. It's going to look in the agility components folder for how we did that before, and it's getting there. I love this because we can see it doing the code, but we can also see it because we've got hot module reload on here, right, in the Next.js website, and it does a pretty good job of that. So let's just keep watching. We're almost there. I think the next thing after this will be, oh, did it go back to indigo on me? We can change that later. Boop, boop, boop. You're almost there. Make these white. Let's go. You can do it. Oh, we got the little lines there. Does a good job. All right. Looks like we got dark mode pretty much there. Just want to get rid of those indigos. I'm probably just going to do that manually. We don't need AI to do everything. Okay, I can still change a color from indigo to gray, right? Yeah, I can totally do that. And nice. Did all the things, giving me the summary. Cool, cool, cool. Looks great. We'll just do the quick check to make sure light mode still works. Nice. Light mode still works. Dark mode works. Sweet. Keep it. And we're going to change that to just gray. I don't even know if that looks good, but I'm going to assume it looks pretty good. No more indigo. Sweet. All right, so the one thing we want to do, give the stats a spinner loading count. Do we want them to spin or want to count up? Spinner loading count up. I don't know. I don't even know what's capable here. I know this project is using Motion. Motion is not one of my favorite libraries, but AI does a really good job at doing cool motion stuff. So let's just give it a shot. I want to give them like a spinning, counting up effect as they scroll into view. Cool. Motion is really good at scroll effects. I've got them elsewhere in the site. I think if we go to like, where the heck else are they? I think I'm on the pricing page. I've got a, yeah, on here. Yeah, that's a nice one, right? So I like that, how we did this is the little testimonial thing here. And I think on the homepage, we've got some screenshots in like a bento box kind of a thing that as you scroll, they load in, which is kind of nice. So this is pretty sweet. So we've got some good stuff going on in here. Some nice CSS effects. And this will be a good one to kind of go along with that. So see how it does. Let's see what it's doing, okay? So there's already a perfect animated number component. So I already had this in the project. I didn't even know I had that. So it's gonna do that. Custom component to handle the stat values with a spinner effect that uses animated number. Wow. Keep the animated stat value component, update the company stats to use it. Right? It's doing a good job. It didn't just do its own thing. It actually looked to see if there was another thing that it could use. So it's creating a subcomponent for this, and it's going to wrap it in the animated number because I actually asked it to do some kind of scrolly thing. So see if it's actually doing that. See the issues already in the file. So in a way, AI is like this super eager intern that's really good at certain things, but not great at knowing what's in my brain. It knows some stuff that's in the project, but if I had intention, I would have had to put that intention in the prompt. So if I didn't want it to use another component, for instance, or if I wanted to do something very specific, that's where I need to be good at prompting. If you're going to do generic prompts, the AI is going to have to do more work to figure out how it's going to solve that problem. And you may get to a situation where it solves in a way that you didn't intend. But the smaller tasks are usually pretty good for things like this. Like, hey, just, animate some numbers and stuff like that. Or if you've practiced it before. I was really happy with how it did the work on just like, make this component work with agility, because it has a bunch of examples in the project of how to do it the first time. Or not, no, like it's not the first time that it's doing it. My assumption is that if it was the first time in a brand new Next.js project, it wouldn't work that great. So, starting from a reference point, having some examples already in there in the code is great. And my thought is this Copilot instructions is going to be one of the things that we'll kind of pass around to help people with with projects, to say, hey, drop this in your project. It's going to make it great for doing these kinds of things. And I think if you're using Cursor, there's Cursor rules. If you're using Claude, there's all kind of stuff you can do for Claude. So there's different ways that different AI tools are working with this. Oh, and it says that it's done. I'm going to refresh here. I think I know what the problem is here. We've got use client in the company stats component. This is an annoying thing where I don't like to have two components in the same file anyway. And in this case, one of these has to be a client component. But since this is an async component doing data loading, not going to work. And gosh, you should have noticed that. So split this component, split this, or just put the components in their own files. How about that? Own folder called company stats. And only make the, what is it, the animated stat? Yeah, animated stat value. Client component. There you go. So let's see if it can take this out, put it in a subfolder, and take away the use client from the company stats, and then make the animated stat value component. So that has to be client component because it's doing a bunch of like client-y stuff. Whereas the company stats one, it can't be a client component because it's doing async stuff, and you can't have async client components. We want to be very specific in Next.js projects too about what's running on the client, what's running on the server. So I don't mess around with that stuff. You could try and hack this around to try and make it work in different ways, but the easiest way is to keep it, is just split it up. And sometimes you need to do, like, for instance, on our post listing, we have our post listings. I actually named it .server on that one. And then we just basically do the data loading and just pass it into the other components. So, the server component's really just doing data loading in that case. So we'll see what happens over here. You can see it's creating the company stats file here, and hopefully it's doing what we want. I probably could have copied and pasted over there myself faster, but we'll see. Oh, it's asking me to run a terminal command to delete the old one. The original, cool. Sometimes it does it for you and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. Sometimes it makes you run a command to do it. It's interesting. But it does put a human in the loop sometimes. You can see that file's now been deleted. So I'm going to get rid of that from my list. I'm actually going to open company stats to see. It does not have the use client up here, which is good. And the animated stat value does have use client, which is great. It's just doing some things now. So let's refresh this puppy. Hmm. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to just basically stop and restart my dev server because it could be that it just got pooped out. And it was. Oh my goodness. Nice. Now we got these ones counting up, but these other ones didn't. Let's do that again. Yeah. Okay, so these ones worked, but this one didn't work because it had the dollar sign. Well, do we really want this to work? Yeah, we really do. Okay, so make the values that have any number in them. This is going to be tricky. In their value work with the animations. And keep the animations on smaller numbers going a little longer. I'm being super tweaky here now on this one, super like nitpicky, but it's just a cool effect and I don't want it to be missed out for folks. So what I've tried to do is like, hey, there's a number in here. It was smart enough to figure out there's a number in there, but it wasn't smart enough to figure out there's a number in there, right? The 70 million really. So hopefully it can do it. Oh, it's already started messing around with some stuff here. We'll see how this goes. Universal number detection, sweet. Put it in a regex. It's also something that I'm not a fan of doing myself. I'm a fan of other people and AI generating great regex for me, so that'd be awesome. Oh my gosh, it even gave me an example of all the different things that it's doing. Are you kidding me right now? Okay, here we go. Scroll. Oh my goodness. That is sweet. Let's try the exact same thing. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to go dark mode. Whoa, works in dark mode too. I mean, obviously in dark mode, it's the same data, so we're good. All right, I'm loving this. What the actual Frankenstein is happening? Why did it bring back the indigo? It just wants the indigo back so badly. All right, going nuclear on here. I'm searching for the word indigo. I'm replacing with gray. Wow, 2 replacements. That was a really smart thing there. Okay, cool. Now we're back. We're grayscale. Oh, it made the background image grayscale like I had done in other places. Oh my goodness. Kind of makes me want to do that over here. Shucks. Probably should do that for this one. Actually, this isn't really even a background image. Let's see how this resizes, actually. It's not really a background image at all. I shouldn't have called it background image. Let's double check how this is working, because I'm now not convinced that it's actually the most efficient way of doing that image. And I don't think it is, because that is going to, first of all, I don't need to fall back over to, I guess we're falling back to Unsplash, which is kind of neat. But that's not using the Unsplash one, right? This is using ours that we did. Right, is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. That's the one we put in there. Wow, it's hard to even tell. Once you go grayscale, it looks like a totally different image. Okay, but we need to make sure that we're using a more efficient way of loading this thing, because if I open this image in a new tab, like, that's not efficient. That's a really high that's a really high density or high pixel image. Let's use the agility pick. Oops. So use the, I'm going to be really specific here. I want to use the agility pick component for the image, and give it some media queries for sources for different screen sizes. It's a terrible way of describing that. But what I wanted to do is use the agility pick component, which is actually a wrapper around the picture tag. And as we resize the screen, we want to use different like heights and widths of that image, so that if I'm on a phone, I only need to load a small version of that image. But if I'm looking at it on a bigger screen, then I'm going to load a bigger version of that image. We'll see how well it does. I don't even remember if I've actually done that properly in the rest of this project either. So we'll see how well it does at figuring out the picture tag. So let's, or the agility pick image. So it shouldn't take very long to get that in there. You can see that it's starting to do some stuff. Right, it's going to replace the IMG tag with an agility pick and add responsive media queries. So it figured out what my prompt was, even though the prompt didn't make a ton of sense. But there you go, that's in there. Looks like it did a pretty good job. Let's just do one quick thing here. I'm going to go inspect. Let's tie this over to here. Now, this is a good way to test these things. I want to open the image in a new tab because I want to copy its URL. So I'm going to just copy that part of the URL. And over my network tab, I'm going to go boom. I'm just going to filter on that. Let's clear it out. I'm going to refresh. Cool. So it's 60K and it's AVIF, so that's pretty nice. Let's open this in a new tab. So it did this one and it's 1425 wide. Okay, so that's probably a little too wide for this one. We don't need to be that wide for the main one. Let's just fix that first. So the fallback is 1425. Oh, but it needs to be high. It needs to be tall. That's interesting. Okay, because it does, we really shouldn't have picked a wide image for that one, but that's okay. Let's leave it for that for now. So as we resize this guy down to 28K when it's this one, it's a much less wide width. Open a new tab. Now it's 1024. Sweet. So this is working actually pretty well. Then we get even smaller. Now it's only 15K. Sweet. You know what? I'm not going to mess with that. It actually looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So that's instead of what it was doing before. I believe it didn't have anything in there at all. If we look at it, I'm pretty sure it just had format equals auto and was letting it go full width. Let's just check what the size of that guy was. See what we're saving by, doing a little extra work here. 1.6 megabytes. So probably good thing that we did that, got it down to 60K. So we did some good performance stuff there. But AI did not catch that for us. We had to be looking at stuff. So your job now as a developer, if you're using AI, it becomes you're testing, you're reviewing, you're going through all the different use cases, and you're making sure that everything works the way you want it to, because you need to be in control. You need to be driving the boat that's this whole thing is working on. So that's great. And we'll come back and we'll do more on this project. I have a feeling this is going to be a thing that we'll do more videos on. So stay tuned for more.